There will come a day when nobody claps for you. Nobody checks on you. Nobody pushes you. That's the day that decides everything. Because the discipline you build in silence is the only thing that will save your life. Not motivation, not talent, not luck. Discipline. The kind nobody sees. The kind nobody applauds. Today I'm going to show you why the quiet work you do when no one is watching is the work that rewires your mind, rebuilds your identity, and reshapes your destiny. This audiobook is your wake-up call because your life won't change when people notice you. It will change when you notice yourself. Chapter 1. Stop waiting for permission. You've been waiting. You know it. You feel it. You pretend you don't, but it follows you everywhere. You wait for approval. You wait for motivation. You wait for the right timing, the right feeling, the right sign. And here's the truth no one wants to hear. Waiting has quietly become your identity. You've trained yourself to pause instead of act, to ask instead of move, to look around instead of looking within. And that's why this chapter exists, because if you don't break this pattern now, the rest of your life will be spent sitting in a chair you were supposed to outgrow years ago. You have a choice. Right now. A real choice. Not tomorrow, not next year, not when things settle down. Now, stop waiting for permission, because permission is a trap. Permission is a delay mechanism dressed as logic. Permission is the lie your fear tells you to keep you exactly where you are. You don't need their permission. You never did. The world conditioned you to believe you do. Your family, your teachers, your friends, your culture, they rewarded obedience, not initiative. They told you to raise your hand before speaking, to wait your turn, to ask before trying, to follow the path already proven instead of building one of your own. But listen carefully, that conditioning served a system, not your destiny. The life you want, the one with confidence, direction, discipline, and quiet power, will never come from waiting. It only comes from moving. You have a choice. Act or delay, build or hesitate, lead or observe, that's the key. Every powerful person you admire learned this truth early. Nobody is coming to approve your dream. Nobody is coming to validate your desire. Nobody is coming to confirm your potential. They acted without permission. They acted without applause. They acted without a guarantee. And that's exactly why they became who they became. Look at any athlete, entrepreneur, warrior, or leader you respect. They didn't rise because someone told them, yes, you may start. They rose because they said, I'm starting anyway. You have that same ability. You just haven't used it yet. Let's break this down. One, permission creates paralysis. When you wait for approval, you are outsourcing your courage. You are giving someone else power over your future. You are putting your self-belief in someone else's hands. And here's the brutal truth. Most people don't even know what they're doing with their own lives. So why would you let them direct yours? People fear what they don't understand. So of course they won't support your ambition. Of course they'll question your goals. Of course they'll dismiss your dreams. That's not because they're right. It's because they're afraid to do what you're trying to do. You have a choice. Choose courage over consensus. 2, permission kills momentum. Every time you hesitate, you lose strength. Not physical strength, mental strength. You weaken the part of you that takes action. You train your mind to stall. And every single day of stalling builds a habit of non-action, a habit of waiting, a habit of uncertainty. The longer you wait, the heavier the first step becomes. That's the key. Action becomes harder the longer you avoid it. 3, permission protects your fear. Here's the truth you don't want to admit. Waiting feels safe. Waiting feels rational. Waiting feels responsible. But it's none of those things. Waiting is fear dressed in professional clothing. You don't wait because you're thoughtful. You wait because you're scared. You're scared of what happens if you fail. You're scared of what happens if people judge you. You're scared of what happens if you succeed and your life changes. But hear this clearly. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the control of fear. You have a choice. Control your fear or be controlled by it. 4, permission comes from within. Every chapter in this audiobook will teach you the same core truth. The discipline that saves your life comes from silence. That includes the permission you give yourself. You don't need a crowd. You don't need a mentor. You don't need a cheerleader. You don't need an announcement. You need a decision, a private decision, a quiet decision, a decision made in a moment just like this one. Because once you give yourself permission, everything changes. Your posture changes, your confidence changes, your habits change, your identity changes. You're no longer waiting. You're building, you're moving, you're acting, you're becoming. And that is the shift that separates dreamers from doers. 5, real-world application. What you must do now: stop waiting for permission to start the business. Stop waiting for permission to learn the skill. Stop waiting for permission to change your body. Stop waiting for permission to walk away from toxic people. Stop waiting for permission to become disciplined. Stop waiting for permission to outgrow the version of you the world wants to keep small. You have a choice. Do something today that your old self avoided. Wake up 30 minutes earlier. Start the project you've been planning for years. Write the first page. Record the first video. Apply for the job. Sign up for the class. Clean the room. Set the boundary. Say no. Say yes. Say enough. Action is the cure. Action is the answer. Action is the moment your life begins to shift, not permission, action. Remember this line because it will follow you through every chapter. No one is coming. Start anyway. 6. The discipline of self-permission. Self-permission is a discipline. It must be trained. It must be repeated. It must become your default. Every time you act without permission, you strengthen your identity. You reinforce your belief in your own capability. You build quiet confidence, real confidence. Not the confidence that comes from applause, the confidence that comes from action. You become the kind of person who doesn't wait. You become the kind of person who moves. You become the kind of person who leads. And that's who you were meant to be all along. You have a choice and you must make it now. Stop waiting for somebody to choose you. Stop waiting for somebody to validate you. Stop waiting for somebody to approve you. Your life is happening with or without permission. Choose to be part of it. Because the discipline you build in silence begins with one simple decision. Start without permission. You've taken the first step. You broke the mindset that held you still. Now it's time to break the next chain. You mastered your hesitation. Now let's talk about the enemy that hides behind every excuse you've ever made. Chapter 2. Discipline begins where excuses end. You want discipline. You say you want change. You say you're ready for the next level, but every time the moment comes to act, an excuse shows up first. Excuses are not harmless. Excuses are not small. Excuses are not random. Excuses are trained. Excuses are practiced. Excuses are rehearsed. And whether you realize it or not, you've been practicing them for years. You have a choice. Keep training your excuses or start training your discipline. That's the key. Because discipline doesn't begin with motivation. It doesn't begin with inspiration. It doesn't begin with energy. Discipline begins where your excuses end. And for most people, that's exactly why they never become who they're capable of being. They don't have a discipline problem, they have an excuse problem. Let's be honest for a moment, brutally honest. You know the feeling. You set the alarm for 5 a.m. You feel determined the night before. You promise yourself this time will be different. But when the alarm rings, a voice rises inside you. A voice that sounds logical, a voice that sounds reasonable, a voice that sounds intelligent. That voice says, you need more sleep. You'll start tomorrow. It's too cold. You're not ready. You deserve a break. You can do it later. And you listen, not because the voice is correct, but because the voice is familiar. Excuses are comforting. Excuses protect your comfort zone. Excuses shield your old identity. Excuses are the emotional protection layer for the part of you that fears growth. You have a choice. You can keep protecting your comfort or you can start protecting your future, but not both. 1. Excuses pretend to be logic. This is the dangerous part. Excuses don't show up screaming. They show up whispering. They sound like logic. They sound like planning. They sound like being responsible. But you must remember this truth. Your excuses will always feel true in the moment. That doesn't make them real. Your mind has one job: keep you safe, not successful, not disciplined, not evolved, safe. And anything that feels new, risky, uncomfortable, or demanding will trigger the brain to produce excuses as a safety mechanism. But nothing great is built in safety. Your discipline is built in discomfort. Your success is built in discomfort. Your transformation is built in discomfort. You have a choice. Stay safe or become strong. 2. Excuses don't sound like excuses. They sound like reasons. This is where people get trapped. They confuse excuses with reasons. But there's a difference, a major one. A reason leads to problem solving. An excuse leads to postponing. A reason says, I can't do it this way, but here's how I will do it. An excuse says, I can't do it, so I just won't. A reason creates movement. An excuse freezes you. You're not stuck because you lack resources. You're stuck because you overuse excuses. That's the key. You don't need more time. You need fewer excuses. 3. Excuses destroy your self-respect. Every time you make an excuse, you do 2 things. 1. You break your own trust. 2. You weaken your identity. You are showing yourself that you cannot rely on your own word. And nothing is more damaging than that. Your self-respect is built by keeping promises to yourself. Your self-disrespect is built by breaking them. Every excuse is a broken promise. Every broken promise is a lost piece of identity. And every lost piece of identity makes discipline harder the next time. You have a choice. Protect your excuses or protect your identity. 4. Excuses compound like debt. People think excuses are isolated. They're not. They compound. 1 excuse in the morning becomes 2 excuses by afternoon. 2 excuses become 5 the next day. 5 excuses become a lifestyle. And then one day you wake up and say, I don't know how I became this person. But deep down, you do know. You trained yourself into it. You trained yourself to avoid. You trained yourself to quit. You trained yourself to negotiate everything. And now the habit is running you. But here's the good news. If excuses can be trained, discipline can be trained too. Every time you act when you don't feel like it, you build discipline. Every time you show up anyway, you build discipline. Every time you say no to the excuse and yes to the action, you build discipline. You have a choice. You are always training something. Your actions are training your future. 5 excuses disappear when you stop negotiating. Most people don't fail because of weakness. They fail because they negotiate with themselves. I'll start in 5 minutes. I'll just rest a little longer. I'll only skip today. This one time is okay. But here's a truth you'll hear again and again in this audiobook. The moment you negotiate with your excuses, you already lost. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being non-negotiable. The military trains soldiers with one phrase. Discipline is doing what must be done whether you want to or not. That's the standard, and that must become your standard. You have a choice. Negotiate with your feelings or honor your commitments. One of them strengthens you, one of them destroys you. 6 How to kill excuses. Step by step, you need structure, you need clarity, you need simple, repeatable instructions. Here they are. Step 1. Identify your top 3 excuses. Write them down. Expose them, call them out. Excuses lose power when they are named. Step 2. Create a response phrase, a phrase you will say every time the excuse rises, something short and decisive. Examples: do it anyway. Act first, feel later. I decide, not my feelings. Start now. Repetition builds identity. Identity builds discipline. Step 3. Remove negotiation. Set one rule you will not break today, not tomorrow, not someday, today. Maybe it's waking up at a certain time. Maybe it's a workout. Maybe it's reading. Maybe it's building your skill. One rule, 0 negotiation. Step 4. Celebrate completion, not motivation. Stop waiting to feel inspired. Start celebrating action, because this is the truth. Motivation does not create discipline. Discipline creates motivation. You have a choice. Act first. Feel later. 7. The discipline to end excuses is built in silence. Nobody will clap for you when you kill an excuse. Nobody will notice when you stop delaying. Nobody will praise you for showing up, but you will notice. And that is enough. That is everything. Your discipline will grow quietly, privately. In the moments where no one sees your struggle, in the moments where no one sees your resistance, in the moments where no one sees your decision. That's the key. The discipline you build in silence becomes the strength you show in public. Excuses cannot survive a person who acts alone, without applause, without permission. You don't need their approval. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need to feel ready. You need to stop negotiating with excuses. Starting now, you have a choice. Remain a prisoner to excuses or become the master of your discipline. Your life won't change when excuses disappear. Your life will change the moment you stop believing them. And now that you've destroyed the lies that hold you back, it's time to confront something deeper, your identity. Because excuses die when a stronger identity replaces them. You ended your excuses. Now let's build the person who never needs to use them again. Chapter 3. Your identity is built in the dark. Identity. It's a word people throw around without understanding its weight. They think identity is what you tell the world, what you post, what you claim, what you say about yourself. But that's not identity. That's branding. That's pretending. That's the image you present because you hope the world believes it. Your real identity is built where no one can see you. Your identity is built in the dark. And this chapter matters because discipline is not just a behavior, it is an identity. If you don't change who you are, you will never change what you do. You have a choice. Become the person you pretend to be or keep hiding behind who you used to be. That's the key. Most people live their lives performing for an audience. They act disciplined when someone is watching. They act motivated when someone is judging. They act confident when someone is evaluating. But when the lights go off and the audience disappears, their real identity shows up. And that identity is weak, inconsistent, unreliable, untrained, because it was never built, it was never forged, it was never developed in silence. Let's break down the truth. 1. Your identity is created by repetition, not intention. You don't become disciplined by wanting to be disciplined. You don't become strong by wishing you were stronger. You don't become confident by talking about confidence. You become these things by repetition, by doing the same hard thing privately, consistently, without applause. Your identity is not what you think, it's not what you say, it's what you repeat. If you repeat quitting, you become a quitter. If you repeat excuses, you become unreliable. If you repeat hesitation, you become passive. But the exact moment, you repeat discipline, even in small ways, even when no one is watching, you begin to build a new identity. That's the key. Repetition rewires identity. You have a choice. Repeat weakness or repeat strength. 2. The dark is your training ground. People avoid the dark. They avoid silence. They avoid solitude. Why? Because in silence you face yourself. You face the truth. You face your patterns, but the dark is not your enemy. The dark is the gym of your mind. The place where your character lifts its weights. The place where your habits sharpen their edges. Think about every truly powerful person in history. Their greatness wasn't built on stage. It was built in hours nobody tracked, workouts nobody saw, failures nobody recorded, effort nobody celebrated, because the dark is where transformation happens. If you only work when someone sees you, you're not disciplined, you're performing. If you only improve when someone pushes you, you're not committed, you're dependent. If you only show up when conditions feel right, you're not strong, you're convenient. You have a choice. Train for applause or train for mastery. 3. You become the person you practice being. Identity is practice. Identity is pattern. Identity is repetition multiplied by intention. Every day you are practicing something. You are practicing discipline or practicing delay. You are practicing self-control or practicing emotional reactions. You are practicing courage or practicing fear. You are practicing consistency or practicing inconsistency. There is no neutral. There is no "I'm doing nothing." Even doing nothing is practice. Practice for avoidance. You are always becoming something. The question is, are you becoming someone you respect or someone you tolerate? That's the key. If you constantly practice weakness, you cannot suddenly become strong when life demands it. If you constantly practice distraction, you cannot suddenly become focused when opportunity arrives. If you constantly practice comfort, you cannot suddenly become resilient when adversity shows up. You have a choice. Practice the identity you want, starting today. 4. Silence reveals what noise hides. Noise hides truth. Noise hides insecurity. Noise hides weakness. That's why people stay busy, why people stay loud, why people stay distracted, because silence exposes them. Silence forces you to face your real habits. Silence forces you to see the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. But that gap is not a punishment, it's a map. It shows you exactly who you need to become. And when you work on that version in silence, without needing approval, without needing applause, without needing reassurance, you create something unbreakable. A private identity. A real identity. A disciplined identity. One that cannot be shaken by opinions. One that cannot be broken by pressure. One that cannot be stolen by circumstances. You have a choice. Hide behind noise or grow in silence. 5. The dark builds standards that light cannot shake. When you build your identity in silence, you build standards. Not goals, standards. Not dreams, standards. Not wishes, standards. Goals can be postponed, standards cannot. Wishes can be ignored, standards cannot. A person with standards doesn't ask, "Do I feel like doing this?" They say, "This is who I am. This is what I do." A disciplined identity does not negotiate. A disciplined identity does not need permission. A disciplined identity does not collapse under pressure. Because a disciplined identity is forged through countless invisible choices, choices nobody sees but you. Wake up early, show up anyway, do the reps, control the emotions, cut the distractions, own the responsibility, keep the promise, repeat, repeat, repeat. That's how identity is built in the dark long before anyone recognizes the transformation. You have a choice. Live by feelings or live by standards. 6. Real-world application. Build your identity tonight. Here's the part most people skip. You must create one silent discipline ritual. One private action that nobody knows about. Nobody monitors, nobody praises, nobody claps for, just you and the dark. It could be a daily cold shower, a 5 a.m. wake up, a 20-minute reading commitment, a fixed workout time, a nightly planning session, a daily, no distractions, hour, a non-negotiable journaling routine, one ritual. 0 excuses. 0 negotiation. 0 audience. This becomes the foundation of your new identity, because the world sees your results, but you see your rituals. And your rituals shape your identity more than any dream ever could. 7. The identity you build in the dark determines the life you live in the light. Your public life is nothing but a reflection of your private identity. Your confidence, your discipline, your focus, they all come from the battles nobody sees. You want a new life? Build a new identity. You want discipline? Build it in silence. You want respect? Earn it in the unseen hours. You want strength? Forge it in moments nobody will ever clap for. You have a choice. Pretend in public or transform in private. And once you choose the second path, everything changes, because the discipline you build in silence becomes the power you show the world. You now understand the truth. Identity isn't inherited. Identity isn't gifted. Identity isn't spoken into existence. Identity is built repetition by repetition, choice by choice, day by day in the dark. And now that your identity is shifting, you're ready for the next level. The next chapter will teach you how to protect your new identity from one of the biggest threats to discipline, the need to be understood. You built your identity in silence. Now learn to protect it from the world. Chapter 4. Stop needing the world to understand you. People spend their whole lives begging for understanding. They want approval. They want validation. They want the world to clap for them, agree with them, see their vision, believe their reasons, and justify their choices. But here's the cold truth. The world doesn't need to understand you for you to rise. Understanding is not a requirement for greatness. Approval is not oxygen. Validation is not fuel. You have a choice. Spend your life explaining yourself or spend your life building yourself. Only one of those leads to transformation. Only one leads to discipline. Only one leads to results. Let's begin. Most people waste years, decades, trying to be understood, trying to convince their family, trying to convince their friends, trying to convince strangers online, trying to justify every move, every dream, every ambition. And what does it give them? Nothing, absolutely nothing, because people don't understand you based on your truth. They only understand you based on their limits. That's the key. People judge your path with their map, not yours. You want something bigger? They can't see it. You're changing your life? They doubt it. You're becoming disciplined. They feel threatened by it. So you keep explaining and explaining and explaining, trying to make them comfortable with your transformation. Stop. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You don't need their understanding. You need your discipline. You need your clarity. You need your commitment to the path you chose. Look around. How many people do you know who stayed small just to be accepted? How many people killed their own potential just to fit into someone else's expectations? How many people silenced their goals because someone said, "I don't get it"? That could have been you. Maybe it used to be you, but today, right now, it ends. You're not living for applause. You're not living for recognition. You're not living for comprehension. You're living for the life you're building in silence. Here is something you must accept if you want peace. Most people couldn't understand your purpose even if you gave them a map. Why? Because they're not meant to. Your purpose was handed to you, not them. Your vision was placed in your mind, not theirs. Your path is aligned with your growth, not their comfort. Stop needing the world to get it. Stop expecting them to support it. Stop hoping they'll applaud it. They won't. And that's okay. Greatness doesn't begin with understanding. It begins with self-respect. When you stop needing the world's approval, something shifts. Your mind quiets. Your direction sharpens. Your discipline strengthens. You finally start living. Think about how much time you've wasted explaining yourself, why you're cutting people off, why you're focused now, why you're not partying anymore, why you're saving money, why you're staying home to work, why you're training alone, why you're not entertaining drama. Why? Why do you explain any of that? Because you wanted them to feel comfortable with your growth. Because you didn't want them to misinterpret your transformation. Because you didn't want to be called selfish, distant, or changed. But listen carefully. Growth requires misinterpretation. They should think you changed because you did. They should think you're different because you are. They should feel a little uncomfortable because you're no longer playing small to make them feel big. You have a choice. Stay explainable or become exceptional. And exceptional people are rarely understood. When you commit to discipline, people call you boring. When you commit to silence, people call you distant. When you commit to focus, people call you antisocial. When you commit to growth, people call you arrogant. But no one calls you unstoppable until you succeed. No one calls you wise until your decisions pay off. No one calls you disciplined until the results show. That's the cost of changing your life. People misunderstand you before they respect you. So let them misunderstand. Let them whisper. Let them doubt. Let them misjudge. You're not here to defend your evolution. You're here to complete it. Real strength comes when you stay committed even when no one understands your commitment. Real discipline comes when you keep moving even when people mock the steps. Real confidence comes when you no longer require applause to continue. Understand this deeply. If people need to understand you before you move, you'll never move, because they will always question the timing. They will always question the purpose. They will always question the risk. That's why you must stop asking them for clarity. They can't give it. They don't have it. You already know why you're changing. You already know what needs to be done. You already know what you want to build, so build it. Stop explaining and start executing. Stop justifying and start acting. Stop convincing and start becoming. Here's the truth. Every minute you spend begging to be understood is a minute stolen from your discipline. And discipline is the foundation of your future. You're on a different timeline. You're on a different mission. You're on a different frequency. Most people live their lives seeking approval. You're done with that. You're stepping into a new level of mental toughness. The moment you stop needing the world to understand you, you reclaim your power. You reclaim your time. You reclaim your emotional control. You stop reacting. You stop explaining. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You become quiet. You become focused. You become intentional, and that's when you grow the fastest, because silence protects your mission. Focus protects your discipline, and not needing to be understood protects your peace. So here's your new rule: move in a way that only makes sense in hindsight. The right people will understand later. The wrong people don't matter now. And you? You will thank yourself for letting go of the need to be understood. This chapter is simple. Let them think what they want. Let them say what they want. Let them believe what they want. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be disciplined. You're here to be consistent. You're here to be unstoppable. You know what you're becoming. That's enough. You've released the need for understanding. Now it's time to confront the next obstacle that steals your power. Chapter 5, Pain is not the enemy, avoiding it is. You've been taught to fear pain, to run from it, to numb it, to treat it like a sign that something is wrong. But here's the truth nobody ever tells you: pain is not the enemy, avoiding pain is. Every time you dodge discomfort, every time you choose the easy route, every time you hide from pressure, your willpower weakens, your discipline erodes, your edge dulls. Pain sharpens you. Comfort softens you. Remember that, repeat that, live by that. Let's break the illusion. Let's talk about what pain really is and why avoiding it is destroying your potential. Pain is not a punishment. Pain is a signal, a teacher, a sculptor. It shows you where you're weak so you can become strong. It reveals what needs to be fixed so you can grow. It reminds you that you're still alive, still capable, still evolving. But people today don't want evolution. They want ease. They want shortcuts. They want transformation without sacrifice. They want strength without struggle. And that's why they fail. That's why they stay average. That's why they never become the person they were meant to be. Pain sharpens you. Comfort softens you. Say it again. Let it sink in. Every meaningful transformation in life, mental, emotional, physical, comes through pain. Look at anyone who is truly disciplined, truly resilient, truly unshakable. They didn't get that way through comfort. They got that way through hardship. You think military soldiers become disciplined because their lifestyle is easy? No. They become disciplined because every day their limits are tested. Their bodies get pushed, their minds get stretched, their emotions get pressured. They wake up early when their body screams no. They keep running when their lungs are on fire. They stay focused when their mind is exhausted. Why? Because they understand the universal truth. Strength is a reward for surviving discomfort. Endurance athletes know this too. When they hit mile 20, the pain isn't a problem, it's a requirement. The burning muscles, the screaming joints, the mental fog, those aren't signs to stop. Those are signs they're entering the zone where growth happens. They don't avoid the pain, they lean into it, because pain sharpens you. Comfort softens you. Your life is not that different. Every time you avoid a difficult conversation, every time you dodge responsibility, every time you numb your emotions instead of addressing them, you weaken your capacity to handle life. Not facing pain does not protect you. It weakens you. It steals your resilience. It steals your mental toughness. It steals your discipline. Avoiding pain is not self-care. It's self-sabotage. The people who fear pain are the ones who get controlled by it. The people who face pain are the ones who master it. You have a choice. Live easy now and suffer later, or suffer now and live strong later. And suffering in this context doesn't mean breaking yourself. It means doing what's uncomfortable. It means doing what others won't. It means allowing life to stretch you instead of hiding from it. Let's talk about your life for a moment. Think about the days when you were mentally strongest. Think about the seasons where you evolved the most, the moments that genuinely shaped your identity. Were they comfortable? Were they easy? Were they painless? No. Your strongest days came from your hardest days. Your character was built when your back was against the wall. Your discipline grew in seasons where you had no choice but to push. Pain sharpened you. Comfort softened you every single time you chose it. So why do you fear pain now? Why do you see discomfort as a threat? Why do you treat hardship like an enemy? Pain is not here to destroy you, it's here to prepare you. Pain doesn't break you, it reveals you. It exposes your limits so you can rise above them. It teaches you focus when everything feels chaotic. It teaches you patience when nothing is going your way. It teaches you humility when you think you're already strong, but only if you let it. Most people fight pain instead of learning from it. They say, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead of, "What is this teaching me?" They say, "I want comfort," instead of, "I want growth." Comfort is the silent killer of your potential. Comfort is what makes you lazy. Comfort makes you predictable. Comfort makes you soft. Comfort is the reason people stay stuck. Comfort is the reason people repeat the same year of their life over and over. Pain sharpens you. Comfort softens you. Every day you avoid discomfort. You choose to be weaker tomorrow. So let me ask you something. Where are you avoiding pain right now? The gym? The uncomfortable truth? The difficult habit? The emotional wound you keep burying? The discipline you've been putting off? Every avoided pain becomes a future regret. Every faced pain becomes future strength. Real growth begins the moment you stop running from discomfort and start respecting it. This is what mental toughness looks like. Doing the thing you don't want to do because the person you want to become needs you to do it. This is discipline, choosing the hard path not because it feels good, but because it builds you. Here, the shift you need. Don't see pain as a threat, see it as a compass. If something scares you, move toward it. If something challenges you, commit to it. If something stretches you, lean into it. Because everything you want, everything meaningful, everything powerful, everything transformative is on the other side of discomfort. You're not here to live easy. You're here to live strong. You're here to evolve. You're here to rise. And every time you choose pain over comfort, your mind sharpens, your discipline increases, and your character strengthens. Pain is not the enemy. Avoiding it is. Embrace the discomfort. Train your mind to walk toward challenge. Let hardship shape you instead of scare you. Because when you stop fearing pain, you stop fearing life. And when you stop fearing life, you become unstoppable. You understand pain now. You understand its purpose. Now it's time to talk about the force that surrounds you every day, the force that steals your focus and drains your discipline if you're not careful. Chapter 6. Consistency is the only superpower left. Everyone is obsessed with shortcuts. Everyone wants hacks, secrets, overnight breakthroughs, magic formulas. But nobody wants the only thing that actually works, consistency. You can be talented, you can be intelligent, you can even be gifted, but if you're not consistent, none of it matters. Talent fades without repetition. Motivation dies without routine. Discipline vanishes without structure. Consistency is the only superpower left, the only one that still works in a distracted world, the only one that still separates the strong from the weak. Let's get into it. People follow motivation like it's a fuel pump. They wait for it, they crave it, they rely on it. But motivation is unreliable. It's emotional, it's seasonal, it's unstable. Consistency is different. Consistency doesn't care how you feel. Consistency doesn't care if you're tired. Consistency doesn't care if life gets messy. Consistency is commitment in action. You have a choice every single day: be consistent or be comfortable. Build discipline or wait for inspiration. Take the step or make the excuse. And here's the truth you need to accept. Most of your results won't come from intensity, they will come from repetition. One great workout won't change your body. One disciplined day won't change your habits. One focused hour won't change your career. But repeating them not once, not twice, but endlessly will change your entire identity. That's the key. Consistency shapes identity. Identity shapes decisions. Decisions shape destiny. People think they need to transform overnight. They think they need massive action immediately. They think big efforts make big changes, but big efforts without consistency lead nowhere. It's the person who shows up every day, quietly, steadily, relentlessly, who becomes unstoppable. Think about it. Look at high performers, athletes, writers, engineers, musicians, entrepreneurs, leaders. What do they all have in common? They don't stop. They don't try. They do wait for the right moment. They do hope for motivation. They just show up, again and again and again. They understand the universal rule: success is built in boring moments, not dramatic ones, not emotional ones, not cinematic ones. The boring, repetitive, unglamorous moments, those are where discipline is born. Those are where identity is formed. Those are where greatness is built. But people hate boring. People want excitement. People want fast results, so they quit before consistency can do its work. They judge themselves too early. They think the lack of progress means they're failing. No. The lack of progress simply means you haven't been consistent long enough. Consistency is a time investment. You don't see the return immediately. You don't see it in 3 days. You don't see it in a week. But if you stay consistent long enough, change becomes inevitable. Consistency is the closest thing humans have to magic. Small actions, repeated long enough, create impossible results. That's why inconsistency is so dangerous. It kills progress right before the breakthrough. It resets the clock every time you stop. It forces you to start over again and again. Consistency is the only superpower left because the world is becoming weaker. Attention spans are collapsing. People chase dopamine, not discipline. Everyone wants ease, not endurance. But if you learn to be consistent in a world built on distraction, you're unstoppable. Let's break something down. Consistency is not about perfection. It's not about doing everything right. It's not about never slipping. Consistency is about one thing: coming back. You show up again, you continue again, you recommit again. That's what separates the successful from the stuck, not perfection, but persistence. Think about the gym. Most people go hard for 3 days and quit for 3 months. They don't see results, so they call it failure. But the consistent person, they go even when they don't want to. They go when it's raining. They go when they're tired. They go when they're stressed. They go when motivation disappears. And after months of slow, steady, boring effort, they look different, feel different, think different. Pain isn't the real battle. Consistency is. Consistency is harder than pain because it demands endurance. It demands stability. It demands long-term discipline. But that's why it's powerful. Anything you do inconsistently becomes a hobby. Anything you do consistently becomes a lifestyle. You want emotional control. Practice calm every day. You want mental toughness. Face discomfort every day. You want discipline. Follow your routine every day. That's the only formula. Consistency is the superpower that removes options, and that's a good thing. When you're consistent, you don't ask, should I? You just do it. You eliminate negotiations. You eliminate excuses. You eliminate emotional interference. You become someone who acts, not someone who debates. Here is something you must understand. The world rewards consistency more than talent. You've seen it. People with less talent outperform the gifted. People with fewer opportunities surpass the privileged. People with average ability achieve extraordinary results. Why? Because they simply stayed. They showed up when others quit. They repeated what others abandoned. They kept going when others got bored. Consistency is the only superpower left because most people won't use it. And you? You're done with inconsistency. You're done with starting over. You're done with half efforts. You're ready for discipline. You're ready for repetition. You're ready for transformation. Consistency is your new identity, your new weapon, your new advantage. When you commit to consistency, everything changes. Your self-respect increases. Your confidence grows. Your discipline deepens. Your results multiply. Because you're not hoping anymore. You're building, brick by brick, day by day, step by step. This chapter is simple, but it's not easy. Stop chasing motivation. Start practicing repetition. Consistency is the superpower that turns ordinary people into exceptional ones. You have the ability. You have the opportunity. Now you need the repetition. You've embraced discipline. You've embraced pain. You've embraced the grind. Now it's time to confront the silent killer of your potential, the energy you give to the wrong people. Chapter 7. Control your reactions or lose your life. You can lose everything because of a single reaction. Not a bad week, not a bad month. One reaction, one emotional outburst. One moment where you let anger, fear, or insecurity take the wheel. That's the truth most people ignore. Not because it's complicated, but because it's uncomfortable. You want freedom, control your reactions. You want respect, control your reactions. You want power in your relationships, your work, your goals, your decisions. Control your reactions. This is the chapter where the excuses die. This is the chapter where emotional chaos stops controlling your life. Because here's the key. Life isn't determined by what happens to you. Life is determined by how you respond. Say it again. Let it hit you the way it needs to. Life is determined by how you respond. You don't control storms. You control your steering. That's the difference between drowning and navigating. You've been tricked into thinking reactions are automatic. They're not. They are choices disguised as instincts. You can train them. You can discipline them. You can master them. And you must. Because without reaction control, you're a slave to triggers, to emotions, to impulses, to other people's behavior, to your own history. You think you have problems. Most of your problems came from the moments you reacted instead of thinking. Think about the last time you said something you regret. The last time you sent that message you shouldn't have sent. The last time you snapped at someone who didn't deserve it. The last time you wasted a whole day because one thing irritated you. Was the issue the event? No, it was your reaction. Maybe you lost relationships. Maybe you burned bridges. Maybe you sabotaged opportunities. Maybe you embarrassed yourself, not because you're a bad person, but because you were an undisciplined reactor. That ends now. The world rewards people who stay calm. Look at leaders. Look at high-level operators. Look at elite professionals. They're calm under pressure because they trained for it. They understand something most people never learn. The calmest person in the room controls the room. Not the loudest, not the angriest, not the most emotional, the calmest. Control your reactions and watch how everything shifts. People take you seriously. Problems shrink instead of explode. You make better decisions. You stop wasting energy on nonsense. You stop being manipulated. You develop real power. And no, this isn't about being emotionless. This is about being self-governed. There's a difference. Your emotions are real. They just don't deserve the driver's seat. You can feel anger. You can feel irritation. You can feel disappointment. You can feel hurt. But you don't get to let those feelings dictate your actions. You don't get to let your emotions wreck your future. You don't get to let impulse destroy your discipline. You have a choice, always, even when it doesn't feel like it. That's the key. The reaction gap, there's a space between stimulus and response. Most people never notice it. Something happens. They react instantly. No pause, no breath, no awareness, just emotional reflex. You need to train that gap, grow it, own it, use it. Because in that gap, your entire life changes. Someone insults you, gap. Breathe, decide. Someone disrespects you, gap. Breathe, choose your response, not your reaction. Life hits you with bad news, gap. Pause, stabilize your mind before you move. That pause isn't weakness, it's mastery. You can't be controlled if you control yourself. People love manipulating reactors. It's easy. Push a button, watch them explode. Trigger an insecurity, watch them collapse. Give them a little fear, watch them obey. Feed them a little approval, watch them depend on it. When your reactions are predictable, you're predictable. And predictable people are puppets. But when you stop reacting emotionally, people stop playing with you, people stop provoking you, people stop using you, people stop controlling you because now you control you. This is why emotional discipline is not just maturity, it's survival. Training the discipline want to control your reactions. You must train the mind the way you train a muscle. Here's how. 1. Practice the pause simple rule. When you feel the surge of emotion, do nothing for 3 seconds. 3 seconds, that's it. 3 seconds rewires a lifetime of automatic reactions. 2. Name it, don't become it. Say to yourself, I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling anxiety. I'm feeling impatience. Naming separates you from the emotion. It's a psychological disengagement. You weaken the emotion's control instantly. 3. Lower your tone. Always when you raise your voice, you lose control. When you lower your voice, you regain it. Command presence is quiet, not loud. Remember that. 4. Seek clarity before acting. Ask one question before you respond. What outcome do I want here? Not what your ego wants. What your future needs. That's the move. That's the discipline. 5. Stop emotionally reacting to things that don't affect your real life. Someone's opinion doesn't change your rent. Someone's comment online doesn't alter your future. Someone's attitude doesn't rewrite your destiny. Stop giving small things big reactions. Reactions decide your direction. Everything you want, peace, power, confidence, respect, progress comes from mastering your reactions. Everything you fear, chaos, regret, chaos, lost opportunities, self-destruction comes from losing control of your reactions. This chapter isn't about theory. This is survival training for the modern world, because the world will poke you, it will test you, it will provoke you, it will try to pull you into emotional traps, but you're done falling for it. You're done being hijacked by impulses. You're done being ruled by the moment. You have a choice, that's the key. And now you know how to choose with discipline instead of emotion. Control your reactions or lose your life to them. Master this and you become dangerous in the right way, stable, grounded, unshakable. And that is the foundation of power. You've taken control of your reactions. Now it's time to take control of the space around you. Chapter 8. Win the battle nobody sees. The battles people applaud are not the battles that create champions. The spotlight moments, the wins, the achievements, the breakthroughs, those are just the results. The real war, it happens in the dark, it happens in silence. It happens when nobody is clapping, nobody is watching, and nobody is coming to save you. This chapter is about the truth most people run from. The quiet battles decide the public victories. Say it again. Let it carve itself into your mind. The quiet battles decide the public victories. You want to win in life. You want to stand out. You want to break the pattern, escape the version of yourself you're tired of being, and become someone stronger. Then you have to start winning the battles nobody sees. The invisible fights are the ones that decide everything. You know the battles I'm talking about. The battle against the urge to quit. The battle against laziness when your bed feels heavier than your ambition. The battle against fear when your goals scare you more than your current life depresses you. The battle against self-doubt when your mind whispers, you're not enough. These aren't small fights. These aren't optional fights. These are the fights that determine your destiny. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your private discipline. Everyone looks confident in public. Everyone looks committed when others can see them. Everyone talks about what they want, what they dream of, what they plan to do. But in the quiet hours, in the moments when nobody knows what choice you're making, that's when your real identity forms. The boxer at 4 a.m., think of a boxer who wakes up at 4 a.m. to train. The world is asleep. His city is silent. Nobody is filming him, no audience, no applause, no validation, just discipline, just sweat, just the work. Is he winning a championship fight in that moment? No. He's winning the fight that creates the champion. He's sharpening invisible advantages. He's conditioning his mind to push when it's inconvenient. He's training himself to show up long before the world demands it from him. That's the difference between wannabe and dangerous. Quiet victories forge public dominance. Say it again, the quiet battles decide the public victories. You lose in private before you lose in public. Look back at your failures, not the public ones, the private ones. You didn't fail the day you quit. You failed in the days leading up to it, when you stopped showing up, when you chose comfort over progress, when you let anxiety talk you out of action, when you broke your promises to yourself. Nobody saw those losses, but you did, and they added up. Your future collapses quietly before it collapses loudly. The battle against yourself is the only real battle. You think your enemy is your circumstances. You think it's your lack of support. You think it's your environment, your past, or the people who didn't believe in you. But the real enemy, your inability to conquer yourself. You don't lose to life. You lose to your impulses, your excuses, your fears, your old habits, your laziness, your mental loops. This is why the private battles matter, because they are the only battles where you face the real opponent, the one inside your head. And you have a choice. That's the key, always. The discipline nobody applauds here's what winning the unseen battle actually looks like. Waking up when you said you would, even when you don't feel like it. Turning off your phone when distractions scream for your attention. Pushing through an extra rep when nobody counts your failures. Doing the boring, repetitive tasks that build mastery. Sticking to your goals when your emotions beg you to stop. These are the choices that change your life. Not the dramatic moments, not the breakthroughs, not the big reveals. It's the tiny acts of discipline repeated without an audience that turn average people into unstoppable forces. The quiet battles decide the public victories. Nobody has to see it for it to count. Stop waiting for validation. Stop waiting for someone to notice. Stop expecting applause for doing what needs to be done. Nobody is supposed to see your private work. That's why it's powerful. That's why it builds you. That's why it separates you. Your reward isn't attention. Your reward is transformation. Your future self is watching. You think no one sees your late-night effort. Your future self does. You think nobody notices your discipline? Your future self does. You think nobody knows when you choose progress over comfort. Your future self does. And that version of you, the stronger one, the wiser one, the more powerful one, is built from the choices you make in silence. Your future will thank you for the battles you win when nobody is cheering. Build the warrior you pretend to be. Everyone likes the idea of being strong. Everyone likes the fantasy of being disciplined. Everyone likes imagining themselves as someone powerful. But few are willing to train in the dark. Few are willing to work when nobody is watching. Few are willing to fight the invisible fights. You want to be different? Then act different. Win the internal war before you demand external results. What you must start doing now, here's your blueprint. Simple, tough, effective. 1. Give yourself one non-negotiable daily battle, a form of discipline you will not break. A task you do no matter what mood you're in. This becomes your anchor. 2. Set a hard hour. An hour every day where you work in complete silence. No phone, no noise, no excuses. This is where you build invisible strength. 3. Become a fan of small wins. Big wins come from tiny victories stacked consistently. 4. Remind yourself daily. The quiet battles decide the public victories. Write it, repeat it, live it. 5. Stop telling people what you're going to do. Do it first, show it later. Let your results speak. Your new identity is formed in silence. This chapter is your wake-up call. If you keep losing the battles nobody sees, you'll keep losing the life everybody sees. But if you start winning the silent war, everything changes. You won't need to tell people you're improving, they'll see it. You won't need to demand respect, you'll command it. You won't need to chase opportunities, you'll attract them. Because when you win privately, you win publicly. And the world never overlooks someone who cannot be beaten in the dark. You've learned how to win the invisible war. Now it's time to learn how to guard the strongest asset you have, your energy. Chapter 9, you are always training something. You think you're doing nothing. You think you're just relaxing. You think you're taking a break. But the truth is simple and brutal. You are always training something. Always. There is no neutral. There is no pause button on your identity. Every choice is shaping you. Every behavior is conditioning you. Every habit is teaching your mind how to respond to life. Every action is a vote for the person you're becoming. Let that hit you. Let it shake you awake. Let it force you to look at how you live your day. Because right now, whether you know it or not, you are training strength or you are training weakness. There's no third option. There's no safe middle. There's no it doesn't matter. It always matters. You train weakness every time you escape. Let's talk about the truth you already feel in your bones. Every time you reach for your phone when you're anxious, you are training your mind to run away. Every time you scroll instead of start, you are training comfort over courage. Every time you complain instead of acting, you are training your brain to quit before you try. Every time you avoid the task you know you need to do, you are teaching your mind that avoidance is acceptable. And here's the brutal part. You don't even notice this conditioning happening. It's invisible, it's slow, it's silent, but it's real. And it's killing your strength, your potential, your capacity. You think scrolling is harmless. You think procrastinating is just this once. You think skipping the hard work doesn't affect anything. No, it rewires your identity. It builds weakness into your system. It turns quitting into your default reaction. Every action is a vote for the person you're becoming. The brain learns from repetition. The brain has one job: to make whatever you repeatedly do become automatic. If you repeatedly avoid discomfort, the brain makes avoidance your autopilot. If you repeatedly complain, the brain makes negativity your default lens. If you repeatedly choose distraction, the brain makes focus impossible. You didn't become inconsistent. You trained inconsistency. You didn't become unmotivated. You trained hesitation, delay, and comfort. You didn't become overwhelmed. You trained your mind to panic instead of act. This is not personal, it's not emotional, it's neurological. The brain strengthens whatever you feed it. So ask yourself, what have you been feeding yours? The warrior trains, even when it seems small. Think about elite soldiers. Think about world-class athletes. Think about high-performance leaders. They don't train only when they're motivated. They don't train only when it's fun. They don't train only when others are watching. They train every moment of their life. When they wake up early, they train discipline. When they push through discomfort, they train resilience. When they stick to the plan, they train consistency. When they silence excuses, they train mental strength. And all of these small wins compound. They build a warrior you cannot shake. You think they became strong overnight? No, they won invisible reps. They strengthened identity through micro-decisions. So are you, whether you admit it or not. You are training weakness with modern habits. Look at the world around you. Endless scrolling trains escape. Constant comparison trains insecurity. Mindless entertainment trains passivity. Arguing online trains emotional reactivity. Skipping hard tasks trains avoidance. Overthinking trains paralysis. This is why so many people feel weak. Not because they are weak, but because they have trained weakness. You don't rise to your potential, you fall to your training. And most people spend their entire life training softness, training indulgence, training their mind to surrender. Every action is a vote for the person you're becoming. You must become aware of the micro choices. Your life doesn't collapse in big dramatic moments. It collapses in micro decisions. The choice to snooze the alarm, the choice to delay the workout, the choice to avoid the work, the choice to blame instead of solve, the choice to quit when it's uncomfortable. These micro choices are not small. They are training reps. Every time you give in, you train giving in. Every time you hold the line, you train mental steel. The world sees the macro results, but you feel the micro decisions, and your identity is built from those. How to start training strength starting today. Let's get practical. This chapter is not about motivation. This is about training, consistent, repeatable training. Here, that's how you shift your identity starting right now. 1. Minimize the behaviors that weaken you. Cut the scrolling. Cut the complaining, cut the excuses. These are reps, dangerous reps that condition weakness. 2. Choose one daily discipline to build strength. A workout, a cold shower, a focused hour of work, a promise you do not break. You need one non-negotiable anchor. 3. Notice the choice point. Before every decision, you have a moment, a pause, a tiny window. Use it. Ask yourself, is this a vote for who I want to become? 4. Reward action, not emotion. Don't wait to feel like it. Act first. Let emotion catch up. 5. Repeat strength until strength becomes natural. Repetition is identity. Identity becomes automatic. Automatic becomes destiny. You're building a habit or you're breaking yourself. You think you can escape the consequences of your daily behavior. You think you can hide from your own patterns. You think you can talk your way into strength without training it. Impossible. Identity doesn't care about your excuses. Identity doesn't respond to your intentions. Identity responds to behavior, only behavior. What you repeatedly do, you become. What you repeatedly avoid, you fear. What you repeatedly delay, you weaken. What you repeatedly confront, you conquer. You are always training something. You can rebuild your identity. Here's the hope you need to hear. The day you start making different choices, you start becoming a different person. Strength is not a personality trait. It's a skill, a trained skill. And if you trained weakness, you can train strength. If you trained avoidance, you can train courage. If you trained inconsistency, you can train discipline. Your past is not the problem. Your pattern is. And patterns can change fast when you change the reps you give your life. Every action is a vote for the person you're becoming. Every choice counts. Every behavior shapes you. Every day is another chance to train strength. You now understand the hidden training that creates your identity. Now it's time to protect the very force that makes training possible, your energy. Chapter 10, Become the person you would respect. There is a version of you that you admire, a version of you that you look up to, a version of you that walks with discipline, speaks with clarity, and lives with purpose. The question is not whether that version exists. The question is whether you are willing to become it. This chapter is about the highest standard you'll ever hold, becoming the person you would respect. Not the person others approve of, not the person society rewards, not the person your past expects. The person you admire, the version of yourself that you cannot lie to. Say it with me, live like someone you would admire. Again, live like someone you would admire. Because in the end, your life is measured by one thing. Did you respect the person you became? Stop looking up to others more than you look up to yourself. Look at the people you admire. Athletes, leaders, creators, warriors. They all have something in common, a personal standard they refuse to break. They don't need motivation to follow it. They don't need applause. They don't need permission. They live by a code. Meanwhile, most people wake up and follow feelings. They break promises to themselves. They act in ways they would never praise in others. They tolerate behavior that would disappoint their own future. Why? Because they haven't set a standard. And when you don't set a standard, you drift into weakness. But you're done drifting. You're done bending. You're done lowering your bar to match your mood. You are here to build a code you do not break, a code you live by even when nobody is watching, a code that pulls you upward when your emotions try to drag you down. Live like someone you would admire. Your standard is not what you say, it's what you tolerate. You can talk all day about who you want to be. You can write lists about discipline, goals, ambition. You can say you want to be strong, consistent, focused. But your real standard is revealed by what you accept. If you tolerate excuses, that's your standard. If you tolerate quitting, that's your standard. If you tolerate lying to yourself, that's your standard. If you tolerate laziness, that's your standard. And here's the truth that stings. You cannot respect yourself while tolerating the behaviors that weaken you. Respect is built through action, not intention. Live like someone you would admire. Build a personal code you do not break. Let me give you a model used by elite performers, special forces operators, and high-level competitors. Their code is simple. Not easy, simple. 1. No skipping. If it's on the plan, it gets done. No tomorrow. No later. No emotional negotiation. 2. No lying, not to others and especially not to yourself. Self-deception is the foundation of weakness. 3. No excuses. You own your choices. You own your schedule. You own your discipline. This code is powerful because it is brutal. And it has one purpose, to make you into someone you respect. You don't have to adopt this exact code, but you do need one. A standard that elevates your behavior. A standard that forces growth. A standard that demands strength. Live like someone you would admire. If you wouldn't respect those actions in someone else, don't do them. Ask yourself something uncomfortable. If your friend behaved the way you behave, would you admire them? If they quit as often as you quit, would you trust them? If they broke their own commitments the way you break yours, would you respect them? If they talked about goals but never executed, would you praise them? Probably not, because you know what respect looks like. You know what discipline feels like. You know what strength demands. Now turn that lens onto yourself. Hold yourself to the admiration test. If you wouldn't respect someone else for doing it, stop doing it. This is how you build integrity. This is how you build power. This is how you build self-respect. Admiration comes from alignment. Most people lack confidence not because they're broken, but because they're out of alignment. They say one thing, they do another. They plan big goals, then behave like someone who expects nothing. They promise tomorrow, then disrespect today. And the mind knows, the body knows, your identity knows. Confidence doesn't come from hype. Confidence comes from alignment. When your actions match your standards, you feel grounded. You feel dangerous. You feel unstoppable. Live like someone you would admire. Build the admirable identity one choice at a time. Let's make this practical. Here's your blueprint for becoming the person you would respect. 1. Choose the traits you admire. Strength, discipline, honesty, consistency. Write them down. Know your target. 2. Identify the behaviors that match those traits. Strong people show up. Disciplined people follow through. Honest people don't lie to themselves. Consistent people don't quit on day 2. 3. Catch yourself in micro moments. At the decision point, ask, would the person I admire do this? 4. Choose the admirable action even when it hurts. That's the rep that shapes identity. That's the rep that builds strength. That's the rep that wins respect. 5. Repeat until the admirable version becomes automatic. Identity becomes habit. Habit becomes character. Character becomes destiny. You will like yourself more when you stop disappointing yourself. Self-respect is the foundation of a powerful life. Not arrogance, not ego, respect. And respect is built through keeping your promises, showing up when it's hard, acting according to your own code, being someone you trust. Every time you follow your standard, you raise your identity. Every time you break it, you collapse it. This is why the chapter matters. This is why your standard matters, because strength starts with self-respect. And self-respect starts with self-governance. Live like someone you would admire. The world can't respect you until you respect you. You want people to take you seriously. You want opportunities to appear. You want to command attention. You want to walk in a room with presence. It starts with the relationship you have with yourself. When you respect yourself, your posture changes. Your voice changes. Your decisions change. Your energy changes. Others feel it. Others recognize it. Others respond to it. But it all begins with the simplest rule. Live like someone you would admire. And now that you've built a code, a standard, and an identity, it's time to bring every lesson home and cement the transformation. You started this audiobook wanting discipline, but now you understand the truth. Discipline is not something you find. It's something you build alone in silence. Every chapter you heard today points to one fact. Your life changes the moment you stop waiting, stop explaining, stop negotiating, and start acting. The world doesn't reward intentions. It rewards discipline, the late nights, the early mornings, the habits nobody sees. That's where your future is being built right now. So here's your challenge. Starting tonight, create one silent ritual you will not break for 30 days. No excuses, no delays, no negotiations. Because the discipline you build in silence will save your life, but only if you start building it today. Like and subscribe, please.